Hi everyone, I'm Harvey. I'm the community manager for Gig.ai, and we're here doing another spotlight with Paciência. So we'll just ping over to him and he can give us a wee bit of an introduction and background to himself, and then we'll dive straight in.
Thank you. I'm Paciência Canda. I am a senior front-end developer, and I've been contracting for the past 6 years. I was born in Angola, grew up in Portugal, came to Scotland for uni, and then got a job and stayed, and life just carried on. Family, got married, got kids, and contracting now. So that's my background in a nutshell.
Right, cool. So obviously, Paciência, I know you've been contracting the last 6 years. We were introduced through Jen, who's obviously a colleague of mine and has worked with you before back in our recruiting days, which is great. So obviously kind of coming over for uni and getting into, coding and developing and stuff like that. How did you make that switch into contracting? Like, was it from the get-go, you were like, I'm going to eventually move into doing this, or was it just something you kind of fell into?
It's a bit of both, I guess. There's always that idea of I would like to just have more flexibility and be a contractor and have a better management of the time that I'm working and the time that I'm enjoying myself. And I guess since I was at uni, I've always had this idea of like doing side hustles in a way, but not just any kind of side hustle, but something that would go towards what I've been studying. So I started doing a lot of freelancing back then. And then when I got my job as well, continued doing the freelancing. And I guess that was sort of my foundation, my basis to say, okay, I can go and find my own clients. I can go and have those conversations, project manage my own projects, build them and release them and deliver them to the clients. And then got to a point where I felt that added to the experience that I was getting from my full-time job, gave me the courage and pretty much the tools to be ready to go out and say, okay, I'm just going to go contracting full time.
No, for sure. I think one good thing to probably clarify for a lot of people will be that difference between, contracting and freelancing. So obviously, you'll know yourself, and for anybody who's watching who maybe doesn't know the difference, freelancing is obviously when you work for maybe a couple of clients at one time, dealing with kind of different projects, or if you maybe are in a full-time job and you're freelancing on the side. Whereas for yourself being a contractor, you'll obviously do kind of project to project with just one company, whether that's working on one specific product that they want you to help build out, or doing maybe, I'm assuming, like kind of 6-month minimum contracts, kind of one at a time, and then moving on to the next one. Would that be a kind of fair assessment of the way that you're set up?
Yeah, I would say, the scale of the project sometimes is the best way to indicate whether it's a freelance project or not. I guess in the freelance project is more a helping hand to deliver something, to create, say, a website or a prototype or even an actual product for a client, and you kind of do that on your own time, but it doesn't consume all of your time, and you can set your deadlines and the way you're going to work with said client. Whereas the contract, there's just like a bigger obligation where you are going into a team or even writing solo, but you are contracted to deliver something, and you've got a length of time. It could be 3 months, 6 months, and so on. And your sole purpose is to work on that project. I guess it becomes a bit more involved in terms of what you're going to be delivering on a contract versus a freelance project.
I think another thing that I'd be interested to kind of get your take on is obviously freelancing is a very broad world, with people from all kind of backgrounds, all kind of sectors, doing quite literally probably everything you can think of. I mean, you take like plumbers, for example. Technically they're freelance. They might not call themselves that, but that's kind of what it is that they do. But I've spoken to quite a few people probably at your level, within like development and stuff like that, and they've said themselves that they find it easier being a kind of senior developer to work on a contract basis in comparison to a freelance basis, because bigger companies have more demand for somebody who is at a more senior level to just come in and work on, as you said, one specific product that they need, whether it's like a team led or whether it is just they need somebody with specific experience and maybe a niche kind of skill set or a language. have you found that before? Like, do you find that, being a developer and being at a kind of higher level is easier, and you find or maybe see more contract opportunities in comparison to maybe freelance ones?
I guess in part it depends on your personality. The reason I say that is because the freelancing requires a bit more legwork on your part, not only to find the clients, but to manage the project or yourself as such. Whereas a contract, there's a lot of things that you are not solely responsible for, and you are there to give your technical expertise to something very specific. Whereas a freelance, although you do have that expertise, there's a lot more things involved that are a bit of more work for the actual freelancer. In terms of opportunities as well, yes, contracting opportunities is what I've been seeing more out there, because I guess the freelance a lot of times becomes a word of mouth saying, I know someone that is looking for a web developer or things like that. So it becomes a bit easier to find your clients through speaking or like through your network. Whereas contract is something that's more advertised, say LinkedIn, or even if you do a Google search or go on Indeed or Gig.ai as well. So yeah, I guess that's the main difference.
Cool. Sticking in the kind of contracting world, obviously you've been set up as a contractor for the last 6 years, and the other thing, obviously, with being a contractor is, you have to kind of set up your own consultancy, kind of limited company, for invoices and all that kind of thing. Is there, anything that you have found in the last 6 years of, kind of basically being a contractor and running your own kind of, call it consultancy, for businesses and coming in? Have you had like a kind of best experience and maybe like a worst experience, something that you've kind of went, oh, this is, quite tough, whether it's, a project that's had kind of unrealistic deliverables or something, or has there been something you've done where you've went, this is, brilliant, I wish I could kind of continue doing this? Because I know that I've met some contractors before who'll start a project with a company, they really like the environment, the atmosphere, and they end up going for a perm job within that same company just because they like it so much.
Yeah, I guess my last contract, for example, that was a good experience. That was like, sometimes you land on a team that just feels like a cohesive team. I always compare it to sports. Sometimes you kind of need that team bond where you can rely on the other players to fulfill their role and help you on your role as well. And it felt like this last team, that's what I got from it. It didn't make me want back to permanent, but it made me want to continue with that team. But the project got to an end, which was a good thing. It was a successful project. We got to the end and we delivered what we need to deliver. In terms of bad experiences, I guess, when it comes to having your own business, even if it's a limited company, it's still a business. And that's the mentality you kind of need to change. Although you're going yourself doing the work, it's still your business. You still need to put yourself out there as an entity that is delivering a service, and that requires a lot of background work in terms of accounting, making sure your invoices and everything is in order. So I guess like the changes that came a few years back with the inside versus outside IR35, that was an experience that, although I wasn't too affected by it, led me to terminate a contract sooner than I expected, because it was a project that I was enjoying. That company was going to move into inside IR35, and I said, as long as I can find a contract that's outside IR35, that serves me better. So for my business, that felt like a best decision to move away from that situation and go find a new project, which wasn't ideal, but still find a new project, which was good. So yeah, I guess those are the main things. Sometimes you find certain things that you need to see further from how you as an individual, like as a developer, how does that make you feel, but how does that actually impact your business? Because you want your business to keep on going, for you to keep on having that contract life. So
definitely. I mean, you touched on a really interesting point there in terms of like, coming into a good, strong team that makes probably life a whole lot easier for you. I think one point that I always find really interesting, with freelancers, contractors, just self-employed people in general, is, have you ever is it ever, it must be kind of tough, you know, coming into a team for, you know, whether it is 6 months or whether it's maybe longer, and, you know, getting to know people, building up relationships with certain folk, and then one day you're like, oh, that's kind of it, like you're having to move away from it. Like how is that for you, you know, as being kind of self-employed? Is it quite a tough thing, or are you kind of just used to it now, and you know that as much as people are lovely and you're maybe building up good bonds and good relationships, that it is, you know, inevitably one day the contact will end and that'll kind of be it?
Yeah, I think that there's two sides of it. It is nice to find those bonds and be able to say, I can move these bonds outside to the non-professional world, and it's not just like when I'm at work, these are my good colleagues / friends.
Yeah.
And at the same time, sometimes when you are on a permanent job, where there are certain relationships that are not the best, you know, there's an expiry date to that sort of environment as a contract, and you can move on, so you can kind of see past and be professional about it, and not have the dilemma of, I'm going to keep working with this person if I don't like to. But I guess for me, it's always trying to balance things. I like to be in an environment where I can sort of socialize with those people and know where the boundaries are in terms of what's professional and what's outside, and it's just pure socializing. As well as that, just be able to say, okay, these are the people that I want to carry on and have a good relationship with, because as a contractor, your network is still very important.
Of course.
So being able to have those relationships, even if they turn into close friendships or even not that close friendships, as long as they are in good terms, there's always a place that you might want to or might be able to come back and do another project. Like the client that I was with for the past 3-4 years now, we ended up doing 5 or 6 different projects.
Oh, wow.
Just because that relationship was in good times, even though I was jumping between different teams and providing my services for that project, I was still with the same client. So as long as you can find that balance between the relationships that you create and how far you want to take them, it's always important to keep in mind that there's a network that we are establishing there. So.
No, I mean, great outlook on it for sure. Like, I think it sums it up quite well. Obviously, you know, contracting the last 6 years, picked up quite a good bit of kind of knowledge around, you know, best kind of practices and best ways to do things and stuff like that. We, you know, with gigged and with myself being community manager, you know, I deal with a lot of people at different stages in their kind of career and their journey, you know, people who've been doing it for 20 plus years, and folks who are maybe doing that kind of similar route to you took of kind of side hustling at the moment and try to build up a kind of network of people to then one day make the shift into doing it kind of full time. One thing that, you know, we always like to ask people is that same question that probably everybody who's ever had a similar conversation with you will ask, but do you have any kind of advice or any kind of top tips for people of, this is something that I wish I'd known before I made that jump into doing it full time, you know, before you set up your limited company and you kind of took that step into doing it for yourself? Is there anything you wish somebody was like, by the way, you should probably, you know, be aware of this or do this or set this up, anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess my answer is like a 2-3 part answer. So I guess the main thing is, on a personal level, how confident you feel to go and do it. Because I always feel like as long as I can land that first contract, at least that gives you that base of saying, I have done some contracts. It's kind of like when you're trying to show your portfolio to someone, until you have that first thing to show in your portfolio, it becomes difficult to say, I can do this. So yeah, trying to find that first one. And I guess the first contract for me is always that thing that the money is not the most important thing, but the ability to do it and prove that you can go into a brand new team, a brand new scenario, deliver what you meant to deliver, get good feedback, to then move on to something else. Because the experience is what is going to say you deserve more money or less money, I would say. But being able to do it, because it's quite a big jump to say, I want that sort of stability that comes from a permanent job, to just say, I'm going to be jumping from project to project and maybe have some time with no projects, but I'm okay with that. So being able to to do that part on a personal level. I think that's the most important thing. And with that in mind, is how you're going to plan things in a way, because of those periods that you may not have something. So just being able to say, okay, how far do I need to take my work, and how far can I go if I don't have a job? So rather than just saying, look at my bank account and the money keeps going and I'm doing good, I just think about all these different things, because you're going to start thinking about VAT, depending on how much money you make, corporate tax, paying yourself a salary, dividends, whichever way you're setting yourself up. Those are the questions that you need to think. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4 months with no job, am I going to be okay? Knowing that I have to pay all those things as well. So I guess that's one of the main things, that if you can find someone that can give you that advice, even if it's a session with a financial advisor somewhere, it's very beneficial, just to give you that peace of mind of it's doable, but this is the logistic of how to do it. I remember what my third point was, but I guess those are the main things that I wish someone had told me. Remember now, the third point I would say is contracting is not a one-way street. It doesn't mean that if you go contracting, you can go back and go permanent again. Obviously, there's a logistic around it, but it kind of gives you that peace of mind of saying, I can try this and see how far I can take it. If it doesn't work, doesn't mean that I'm going to be unemployed forever. Can go back to permanent, even if that then becomes a temporary thing. Do it again for 1, 2 years and then try again contracting. So yeah, I think a lot of times we put this pressure on ourselves because we are constantly having to prove to everyone else that we do have the skills and we do deserve being paid that much for that project because we have those skills. But yeah, it doesn't mean that it's always going to go well. Sometimes it's not going to go well, but there are still avenues that you can take when things don't go the way you hope them to go. So yeah, those are the 3 things for me.
Great. No, I mean, great advice, Matt. My one other thing, I'm picking your brain on, your kind of experience as being a contractor would be, is there anything that you kind of look for before you take on a contract? Because obviously, you've worked with numerous different companies, different teams, different, leaders, plenty of different products and stuff. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that kind of stands out to you as that's, a team that I want to work for based on maybe somebody they conduct themselves before it? Is there anything in particular that you kind of look for before you take on a new project?
Yeah, so going back to what I said at the beginning, the contracting life gives you that sort of kind of like power within what you can and can't do. Because at the end of the day, you have to agree to certain things. Say, okay, I want to do this project, I'll go in. So it gives you that flexibility of say, I don't want to just do whatever comes to my desk, whatever ticket is next to be done, which is like looking at the agency lifestyle. You might be working on 5, 6, 7 different clients within a week, if not within a day. Whereas as a contract, you can say, I'm looking for projects that fulfill me personally, or I know that the end product is something that's going to help someone in a tangible way. And I guess for me, that's the sort of aim that I have now. The projects that I take on are the projects that are going to fulfill me in a way. And I can say, this project is going to be helping someone. For example, this last contract that I was working on was for a clinic that deals with people with mental health issues and eating disorders. So I know that the portal that we're building, even though I'm just doing React stuff and it's very technical, I know that I'm trying to build something that's going to help someone through their process to have a better life. And that's the kind of power that you want to have of doing something that you like, being technical about it, and enjoy it because you are helping someone else as well. Yeah.
No, definitely. Taking a kind of broader look at being a contractor. You said yourself, you've got to also be very skilled at whatever kind of niche or skill set it is that you're looking to work within, but you're also, having to be like a bookkeeper, you're having to be an accountant, you're having to be your own kind of do all your own admin and stuff like that. So do you have any particular, there's plenty out there obviously for accounting and stuff for keeping track of invoices, but do you have any kind of tools or platforms that you use quite regularly that you kind of stand by and recommend to other people?
I'll say, before saying which one, the main thing as a contractor that we need to think about is it's a business. So you kind of need to invest on the business. And even though that effectively means invest in yourself because you're the only person in that business, you just have to have that mindset of, I'm paying for certain services that are going to help me in the long run. But yeah, I'm using QuickBooks for all the accounting aspects, and I have an accountant as well. The good thing is the accountant can access my profile, my account, and be able to run things like balance sheets or do the corporate tax or do the VAT. And depending on the accountant that you get, you can set which services you want them to do versus which ones you want to do yourself. For example, for me, I just put in the expenses, so the actual adding in the expenses, I do that and categorize them. I run the payroll myself, and then the accountant helps me with what I see as the bigger tasks, do the corporate tax, do the VAT, and make sure that everything is in place. And whenever needed, we have meetings to answer any questions or go over certain things. But yeah, I think there are other ones. I think Free Agent is another one as well. There's another name that I can't remember, but whichever one you choose is just having the idea of this is an investment for the business, and the money that I'll be spending on this can compare to not having it, because it's quite a lot of things that you want to manage. And once you have the automation behind it, also gives you that peace of mind of things are being dealt with in the right way, and with the accountant, I make sure that everything is fine so I can still enjoy my contract life. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it is, isn't it? It's just one less thing that you're needing to kind of worry about for it. I suppose another good question would be, there's plenty of ways to find contract work. As you said, like word of mouth is quite a good one if you've maybe worked in a team before and you get referred to perhaps another department within the same company for somebody to do things with. I know that obviously recruitment agencies are a big thing when it comes to contract work. Even, there are plenty of platforms like job boards and things like that where I'm sure you can find contract work. Do you have a kind of go-to, like if you're coming towards the end of a contract, is there somewhere you always go to like have a look, knowing that there's going to be kind of decent quality things on there? It's not going to be wasting your time scrolling through stuff that aren't going to matter much.
Yeah, I always start with Jen.
Nice.
But that, I mean, like I have a list of people that I know that have helped me in the past finding jobs, or I know they always have something or could potentially have something. So it's always good to reach out to that niche network that will know where things are moving or not moving, and sort of give you that sense of direction where to go. So it starts from there. All the developers that I've worked with, because I think if they are working somewhere else and they know of a position there, it would be nice to work together. You can work together and you can add to that team. So yeah, those are the two main points. And then after that is just pretty much research, just go online, so LinkedIn, Indeed, Keep the Eye as well, and just do searches and see what's around. I've been fortunate that most of the times word of mouth has paid off. And there's always someone that says, oh, we're looking for someone here, or someone else is looking for someone there. And I apply and end up getting there, and it ends up being a small world. Because I remember even when I got in touch with Jen the first time and we got my first contract together, the team that I went in was with someone that I'd worked with before. So that just builds things from there. So that person is aware that I'm now contracting, and if he knows about something, will then reach out to me as well, and you make more connections. So yeah, so
I suppose it is just about, isn't it? It's just speaking to people, kind of building up relationships and networks that you're able to rely on, for sure. before I take up any more of your time, I think one kind of solid question to final up on would probably be, contracting, freelancing, side gigging, all of these kind of probably newer terms in terms of the last couple of decades that are coming out. It's all changing quite quickly and rapidly. There's new platforms coming out all the time. There's new tools. People are coming up with new solutions to make things better and things like that. Mm-hmm. Is there anything within the kind of contracting sector, world, whatever you want to call it, that you think could be improved upon? Whether that's better ways to organise statement of works, whether it's better ways for recruitment agencies to deal with things. Is there anything that you've kind of encountered over your last 6 years of contracting that you think this could be fixed? You don't have to have an answer of how it should be fixed, but just anything that you think this could probably be done in a better way.
I guess going back to what I've been saying in terms of like how you feel as being a contractor and how you have to prove yourself. A lot of times there's that idea of like that imposter syndrome and the idea of, I don't know if I have the knowledge for things. I feel at the moment, because there's so much coming in, going out and being thrown at us, it's difficult to say I have enough knowledge or the capabilities to get enough knowledge to do that job. If there was a way to better quantify and say, for this job, these are the required skills, because sometimes it feels like the skills are a bit vague or the list is quite too big, but being able to funnel that a bit more and say, that person, say, even though they don't do Vue.js, but they do React, they can do this job very well, and we are confident that they can do that job very well. I think a lot of times how vague things are or how long the list of requirements is makes it confusing on both sides of us contractors to say, am I qualified enough for that? And the people that are looking for a contractor, can they actually fulfill this job? So trying to find something in there. And that comes as well to the people that are starting their career as a developer. Maybe they've come from another industry, because you can learn so many things from so many different places. How can you actually say that the things that you're learning on place X are enough to get the qualification for that job role? And I think that gives a lot of doubt to a lot of people. And when you start thinking about some developers being more introvert or having less confidence, those are elements that add to it, and they make you feel like, I can't do this, I need to find something else. And you start losing opportunities just because you don't know whether you can do them or not. So, yeah.
Right. No, I mean, phenomenal way to end off. I think it's certainly a good kind of insight to the world of being a contractor for sure. And obviously, once again, thank you very much for your time, Paciência. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Jen's high speaking of you was definitely, well founded for sure.
Thank you.
So we'll obviously tag you in, and we'll kind of make sure to shout about you for sure. But just thank you for taking the time. We do appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for the opportunity. Look